What's up, YouTube? Any mention that I make of JW.org, Jehovah's Witnesses, their digital, online, or printed materials is done under the Copyright Disclaimer, Copyright Act of 1976 for fair use for purposes such as criticism, news reporting, and teaching, research too, etc., etc. Peace. What's up, everybody? I'm back here. Nebulous no more. Um, a few weeks ago, ABC did a retrospective expose type of documentary look at Waco. I think it's been 25 years. So as I watched it, I thought to myself, man, I was a kid when it happened, so my discernment and how much I cared about the news was very low. So when I knew this was coming on, I was like, I'm going to watch this and I'm going to pay close attention to see if there's any correlation to Watchtower, because people definitely deem this a cult due to the way people in the group, the Davidians, responded to opposition, the sacrifices they were asked to make. People died for it. Ultimately, even if the government wouldn't have interfered or intervened, interfere has a negative connotation. If they wouldn't have intervened, it probably wouldn't have lasted or amounted or grew to any size if left alone. But it was still considered a great tragedy, a very serious thing, and again labeled a cult. And I have some notes here, as always. And my thought is that people do have the right to believe and follow whatever they choose, even if what they choose to follow and live by proves to be harmful emotionally or physically, or even divisive. But no organization has the right to keep you captive to its harmful influence. So if you wake up, or if you say, I want to move, or I don't want to do this anymore, or whatever your reason, you leave. You choose to leave, or a person chooses to leave. That organization shouldn't make you pay a price. They don't have the right to do that. It's your life. So as freely as you joined or followed, you should have the freedom to walk away without a cost. But in Waco and in Watchtower, and there are many other groups that are captive as well, Waco and Watchtower, they expect you to pay if you choose to leave. Like, you have to suffer a loss no matter how you exit. People died in Waco for that cause, or those feelings, or that belief. And it was one man's interpretation of the Bible, or what Jesus brought and taught the world. He even thought he was Jesus. Watchtower is several men's interpretation of Christ's message. And what do? They ask for the right to influence your life and your family, how you raise your kids, how you treat your husband, how you treat your wife, your money, your time, your gifts. But if you want to leave, or if they put you out, there's a price to pay. And that's called a captive organization. It makes me think, if God wanted your life, he would ask for it, right? I don't think there's been a person who confesses that God made a visit and requested their life, or Christ came and said, whether Christ and God are separate or one and the same, neither have appeared to a person and said, we need your life at all costs, even if you're on your deathbed and some treatment or something outside of the scriptures could save you, refuse it and die. No one's received a message from God like that. Something of that nature always comes from one human being to another. Like one human tells another human. That's what this is saying. So if you want to be in good graces of the Lord, you got to die. You got to give your life for it. So because of that, I'm perplexed as to why, especially an adult who has it explained to them that way, why you would continue to let another human tell you that this is what God is telling you to do, and God himself in all his power and might and wisdom isn't telling you to do that. But God did speak for himself, and I think they call that the Bible, but he didn't say we're going to elect a group of guys that will replenish itself when members in this group go low or they need more support, and they will be the only ones to tell you how to understand my perfect message, because God is perfect, right? So if he writes a book, it must be perfect. So with that said, I will play some of the clips from the NBC special, and there are obvious correlations, or better yet, similarities and coincidences, I don't know, to the way Watchtower dictates, better yet, the governing body dictates to those in the Watchtower organization. So tell me what you think. There are 4 and they're very brief.
The desires of the world, and you're supposed to be spiritual.
There was no running water, no heat, no electricity of any kind. We had to go to Bible study 3 times a day.
Women had to wear long blouses covering their rear ends, and no makeup ever, no jewelry. Why did you come here?
Because I heard there was something here that I wanted to listen to.
David can explain this Bible better than anyone that I've ever met.
I'm here because of the truth.
What is the truth?
Well, you have to find out yourself.
So Margarita Vega was a socialite from Hong Kong. Before they joined...
Clip 1 brings up or talks about suppression of self in the name of spirituality, or only using one's gifts to further the work, and how these women couldn't wear makeup and they had to wear certain types of shirts to cover their bodies. So again, this was all said and done in the name of God or the Lord, because he can't speak for himself. That sounds extremely similar to Watchtower, very close, if not exactly like Watchtower, right?
I hope he is.
I could see that there was a struggle. She wanted to believe, but I knew that she wasn't really sure.
He was polarizing because what he's doing is so radical. He truly believed he had a mission from God.
He told them where to sleep, who to sleep with, what to work, what not to do. He's the Lord of the Manor in every sense of the word. He had absolute authority over the air they breathed, over literally the food that they ate every day.
Clip 2 spoke about him saying or feeling that he was a man with a mission from God as the Lord of the manor. This survivor spoke of him as the Lord of the manor. He dictated sleeping arrangements. The first clip said dress and grooming, what they could do or not do with their lives and bodies. The governing body has made a film recently this month about sleeping with your pillow and how it could give you erections, or if your sheets are too tight and they touch your junk, you might get an erection, or if you got a male roommate, you might wake up one day and you want to masturbate in front of him. So this seems also very familiar. I don't understand why someone would hand over to one man or a governing body and their elders absolute authority over lives, as well as how to understand what God is saying. It seems that God again could speak for himself, or Jesus could speak for himself. The Bible says Jesus came and gave many speeches and fed people. Seems like he did a bang up job, right, when he visited. So why is there a need for particular men who claim to be special, or a man who claims to be special, to take control of people's lives and let them know if they're going to be found favorable or damned if they're not favorable on God's behalf? He's all powerful. Can't he do that for himself?
It's just onion soup.
My wife got into trouble once for telling someone it was okay to eat cheese, and she was put out of the camp.
So it was almost like he was sitting around thinking of like really wacky ways to manipulate people. But the idea was to test people to see if they really believed and would really obey when the time came.
You will overcome through my power. You are mine.
We knew it was a cult. We would joke about it all the time. Like, yep, we're cult members.
So clip 3, a man mentioned sadly that his wife gave an unauthorized cheese eating permission to someone, and that woman was put out of the camp, or another word for displaced from a group, and set to the side, cut off, shunned. She was shunned from the camp for breaking a rule about cheese and soup. Watchtower shuns, right? Another familiarity between the two, Waco and Watchtower. They shun rule breakers, or what they perceive to be broken rules have to be punished with shunning, because you've offended God and he can't speak for himself, so we speak for him. And they base this shunning on what they think God will kill you for at Armageddon. So the Corinthian scriptures bring out a list, and they say, well, if this is a list God's going to kill people over, and you did something on this list, even if you ask for forgiveness, you don't seem like you truly want forgiveness, so you're out of here. And they shun you because you broke a rule, and God can't speak for himself, so you deserve to be abandoned until death. And maybe if you act right and we see you're weak and broken, we'll bring you back. If there's time. You know, you might get back if there's time. Because God couldn't do that for himself, so we have to do it. They also mentioned that the one man said that it seemed like David Koresh thought of wacky ways of manipulating people to test people. Again, Watchtower is releasing a video that they put together very recently about the male and his genitals and the influence his pillow might have in giving a male erections in his sleep.
Brother starts rubbing his genitals against a pillow. He gets an erection, but stops before having an orgasm.
The male animal has no season in which he is not willing to engage in the breeding act.
Could you have been sleeping in a position that stimulated you, such as with a blanket or pillow held tightly between your legs?
Satan and the demons are desperately trying to corrupt God's people.
It's no exaggeration to say that he's flooded his world with propaganda in favor of homosexuality.
There can be pornea even if there is no skin-to-skin contact.
A brother sits on the lap of one of his male friends. Two brothers masturbate in front of each other, but without touching each other. She grinds her clothed genitals on his leg while he's fully clothed. He becomes aroused.
The male animal, or whatever word they use, is incapable of suppressing his sexuality, so his pillows and sheets may give him erections, and this is the work of the devil. Literally, they said this is the work of the devil. I have a video number 8, and if you want to see clips from that, I'll put a link, but that eerily sounds like wacky manipulation of your thoughts and how you should live your life if someone goes to the great length of making a highly produced video about your pillow touching your penis when you sleep. Like, why do you even care about someone's life and house and habits that much? God can see everything, right? But can't speak for himself, so they have to do it. And they're figuring out ways to manipulate your thinking, and one of those ways is pillows causing erections and masturbation in front of your male roommates, even if you don't touch their penises. Jehovah's Witnesses probably don't go 1 week without hearing in their meetings that they're being tested for fitness as to God's rules and regulations, and a test by Satan to see if you will break God's rules and regulations and join up with him in his actions to, how can I put it, erode or dilute God's influence over mankind. So a test from God to see if you're fit. Are you going to maintain your faith? Are you going to be strong in your salvation? And then also simultaneously a test from the devil with temptation from perhaps tight sheets or pillows on your junk to see if you will compromise in the test that God's giving you. So both of these super gods are testing you simultaneously. How do you handle the pressure? Oh, because neither one of them can speak for themselves. If they're real, they can't speak for themselves. So these men let you know that you're being tested because of how they understand God's message in the Bible. And the Asian descented woman, the woman of Asian descent, she summed it up nicely, quite nicely at the end of that clip, right?
Overcome through my power. You are mine.
We knew it was a cult. We would joke about it all the time, like, yep, we're cult members. But then again, David would always talk about, well, Christianity's a cult. If you look back, Christ had 12 guys following him around. That's a cult.
What's the difference between a religion and a cult in the United States? It was an old joke. About 100 years, right? It just takes time, right? We sprout religions in America. So the Mormons started out, they were cult. Christian Scientists, they were cult. The branch Davidians were no different.
Everything was a rule. It's more like a prison.
And if you broke a rule, there was a consequence. He even spanked some of the adults.
This last clip speaks for itself, right? Rules, consequences, adult spankings. Is there a Watchtower equivalent? Of course there is. How about shepherding calls or meetings with elders, maybe 2 or 3, when you appear weak or you lack compliance or your stats in the ministry or your stats in meeting attendance don't stack up to what they perceive God expects from you because he can't speak for himself. So maybe not something as ridiculous as a hand on a butt of a grown 40, 50-year-old man by another grown 40, 50-year-old man. But how about bringing you into like some form of a religious principal's office as an adult male or female and sitting you down and reading to you what you could read for yourself and telling you got to get it together and how they expect and what they expect. All of this seems serious and interestingly humorous at the same time, but we can't kid ourselves that just like in Waco, people died. And they died under the guise that the person influencing their lives had a connection to God or was even a God, and he could save them. Watchtower does the exact same thing, and they want you to think that they have a connection to God, and by listening to them, they can save you, and that's simply not true. This is Nebulous No More. Leave comments, constructive or otherwise. I love it. Contact me through email. Let me know what you think.